In today's tip, we're going to look at a couple of ways that you can create jobs programmatically in Viya 4. So to start with, we're going to look at the SAS code way of doing it. So I'm going to head over to the core.sasjs.io documentation site and find the mv_create job macro. And then I'm just going to copy that sample code. I can run it immediately because I've got this link to the all.sas, which actually contains all of the core macros. So I'll just compile those. And then what's happening next, we've got this interesting file ref. And what that does, it lets you add a file in the middle of the SAS program. So you have, it's wrapped in a palm cards 4 and 4 semicolons. And what happens is whatever is between the palm cards and the semicolons gets written to this file ref. And then finally, we invoke this macro, which is going to create a job called myJob in the public app SASjs temp jobs myjobs folder, and that folder will get created if it doesn't exist. So I just run that final step, and then I'll head over to that folder just to see if it's created. So public app SASjs temp jobs myjobs, there's my job. So yeah, that's one way to create a job. Another way is using the command line. So if I head over to a template jobs repository, this is just a seed app that has everything ready in it. So I'm going to clone that repository. I've got a previous one there, I'll just delete that. Git clone repository. So that will download the repo from GitHub, and I'll change into it, and I'll launch the VS Code browser in that directory. So what have I got here? This is a SASjs project. Every SASjs project has a SASjs config file, and this tells me how the project is structured. So I can see that my jobs are in these job folders, jobs extract, jobs load. So I head over there. Here's my job. And this job also has some macros yeah, some lineage information. So before I deploy this job, I'm going to need to compile it because it's got some dependent macros. So to do that, I'm going to open the terminal. But before I can compile it, I need to install these macros because this one actually belongs to the core library. So I will do an npm install. That's install the core library, and then I can do a SASjs compile. And that has, what's that done? That's created a folder called SASjs build, and that contains one file per job. And this job contains all of the dependent macros and SAS programs. The next step then would be a SASjs build. And that will take all of these individual jobs and tests and create a single deployment JSON file that contains all of the content that we want to deploy to the server. And then finally, we're ready to deploy. So before we deploy, we need to set up a target. And a target is the place where you'd like to deploy your code. So to add a target, you do SASjs add. We'll get a series of prompts. So I want to put it in my local project file. It's SAS Viya target. Target name, I'll put hacker. App location, I'll just use the default. Target server URL is the Viya 4 URL. Stick that in without the trailing slash. And then you can see here in my SASjs config, I've got my hacker target with that server URL and server type. So I would like to authenticate, so I'll put yes. Client ID is hack client. Client secret is hack secret. I get a link that I need to click to get the authorization code, and then my client and secret will be authenticated with my access token. I won't set that as my default target, so I'll specify the target in the next command. So I now have my target defined in the SASjs config. I have an environment file that contains my access token and refresh token. I'm ready to deploy. So I do a SASjs deploy, and because it's not my default target, I'll specify the hacker target on the command. No such file or directory. I needed to build a package specifically for the hacker target. So that's done. and then SASjs deploy target hacker. Great, so that's taking that JSON file, it's pushing it to the Viya4 server. It's noticed that the directory doesn't yet exist, so it's being created. And that's in the process of deploying, and it'll deploy to this app lock, this app location in SAS Drive. So it'll be public app hacker, and then below that it'll be jobs, and then extract, and then my jobs here, extract and load. So I'm deploying 5 jobs and also a series of tests. So that's successfully deployed. I can click there and go straight to SAS Drive. And in the content, public app hacker, and here's my jobs. Just wait for it to load. There we go.